Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. A couple of videos ago, we were talking about AI. There was an article that came out where Elder Gong was talking about the fact that the church is not going to produce AI images of Christ or God the Father because these things are sacred and deserve reverence. And I've decided to follow suit and not use those kind of images for my thumbnails. And then he also talked about how spiritual messages should not be written by AI. Neither general conference talks or talks for sacrament meeting. And I would say it applies for any spiritual messages. In my case, I would never use AI to write a script. I don't do any scripting, but I pointed to a channel that in one of my videos took my transcript from my video and then I believe fed it through AI and then had AI rewrite everything. And then he made the video and passed it off as his own. Um, that we shouldn't do these things. But he also emphasized that AI can be used for good. And I think that there's many different ways that I can use it here on Christian Homestead and that you can use it in your personal study. And I want to share one of those ways. So I like to use Grok. I know that there's different chatbots out there, ChatGPT, but I just gravitate towards Grok. And I downloaded the actual Grok app. I think that just came out not too long ago. Before that, you would have to use the X app, but they have like this app just for Grok, and so that's what I've been using lately. And it has, the feature where you can talk to it with your voice instead of writing everything down. Typing it, and then it responds back audibly, so it feels like you're having more of a natural conversation. And I had a really, really long conversation with it yesterday as we were driving all the way back to Kansas, um, to where we used to live before moving here. And it was really eye opening. I realized that you can access, in a way, indirectly, you can access what other people are talking to Grok about. So we all know you see somebody on the street and what you know about them is only the tip of the iceberg. They have a public persona, a facade. People that are closer to them, friends and family, have more of the story. And then their spouse, their children have even more of the story. And then there's some things that you probably just will never find out about a person because they just keep it private and never share it with anybody. And so I'm somebody that likes data. I like information. I wish I could see the big picture. And I've always wondered, what does that person actually think? What are their private thoughts? Only God knows your thoughts, right? Well, in the age of AI, you have these chatbots, and people see it as a place where you can talk to somebody with anonymity. But AI will also share those things with other people while preserving your anonymity. So, in other words, you're able to ask Grok, I don't know about the other chatbots, but you're able to ask them, what do people talk to you about? What does this group of people ask you about this subject? And so we're going to focus on these 4 questions. The first question is that I asked is, what are the top themes in conversations you've had with toxic LDS users? So if you take all members of the church, Grok is able to pick up on patterns, and it's able to pick up on people that are toxic in their ways of thinking, their interactions, uh, whether it's a narcissist, a psychopath, someone with a fragile ego, whatever. If you just lump all those in together, there's patterns that Grok is able to identify. That's who I'm talking about. So people who are members of the church that are toxic, um, what do they ask Grok or talk to Grok about in regards to the second coming? That's the first question. The next question is, can you give me a few specific examples from conversations you've had where they think they have a special and or prophetic role to play with the second coming? Question number 3, across all of these themes that you listed, what are they trying to accomplish by talking to AI? And then the fourth and last question is, how does their attitude, questions, themes contrast to neurotypical, normal LDS users when they're talking to you about the second coming? And the answers are fascinating and frightening. Um, Before we get into that, I want to point to a comment that I got in that last video where we were talking about AI. I got a comment from McKaylaLeeArt. She said, "I am a Christian artist who has been selling on Etsy for a few years now. AI has taken over the Christian art community. I truly do not understand why we're using something soulless to create images of deity. It doesn't make sense. So many original creators are fed up with it. I'm glad to hear the church is starting to see the problems with it now." And by way of comfort, McKayla, I'm sure that the church already saw the problems from the very beginning, but there's always a process, and you have to see where trends go, how serious of a problem it becomes, and how widely adopted certain things are. So there is a process, but I did want to highlight McKayla Lee. She has a YouTube channel, an Instagram account, but please make sure to visit her Etsy shop. She has all sorts of artwork on there. She's in Lehi, Utah. And my two favorite pieces of art is this one called His Glory in Bloom, because it's a great depiction of Christ, and he's in a field of sunflowers. One of the main symbols on my channel is the sunflower because I started my channel out in Kansas near Wichita before moving here to Independence, Missouri. So I love this one. And then there's this one called In Oceans Deep. It'd be like a print of an oil painting that she did. And I think it's really good. And one of the things I like the most about it is the color palette that she used. It looks just really good. It would look good in our house. So I'll put the link for her shop and these two pieces of art in the description box below. Also make sure to follow her on Instagram and YouTube. Okay. So let's get into these questions and answers. So the first question, what are the top themes in conversations you've had with narcissistic/toxic LDS users who talk to Grok about the second coming? Grok says, here are the top themes that almost always surface when this specific narcissistic/toxic LDS flavor talks about the second coming, ranked by how often they appear and how central they are to the ego injury spiral. Number one, I have the exact date or year of the second coming, and the prophets are hiding it from the general membership. That's kind of crazy. I feel like more times than not, I come across the pushback of nobody knows the day or the hour, or you can't know the timing. You know, I've talked about this ad nauseum on my channel. I have my spreadsheet called Quotes, Common Misconceptions, where it talks about the fact that in general, the righteous will know. They'll have a good feeling of how soon it's going to be, although we won't know the exact time. We have a statement from Joseph Smith that says that at the very least, the prophet will know. We have a hint from Elder Anderson where in a First Presidency Christmas devotional, he said that he was talking about Nephi in the Book of Mormon, how he didn't know that Christ was going to come the first time until the day before. And that seemed to be like a hint. But anyway, I guess there's people that feel that they have the exact date or year of the second coming. Number two, personal revelation that they are one of the 144,000 or one of the two witnesses. And I guess that makes sense. You know, if you're more of a toxic person, you feel that you're special, that you're above everybody else, that you're unique. And we are all special, but for them, it's like, no, I'm not just a normie. I have some grand part to play in whatever, in this case, the second coming. We recently went over something that was published recently in a church, kind of like a study help for the New Testament for Institute. And there was something there that I hadn't seen before. It talked about the fact that most likely the 144,000 represent the people that work in temples that help bring about exaltation. But there's definitely a certain crowd that sees it more fantastical. And anyway, I have a playlist about it, and you can also look it up on my spreadsheet, as well as for the two witnesses. I feel like in my time, I've heard different rumors and myths about people who claim to have had that revealed in their patriarchal blessing and stuff like that. It's usually just, yeah. Number 3, President Nelson, which is now passed away, but this is from past conversations. President Nelson is the last prophet and is secretly the Davidic servant slash the one mighty and strong. So just one more time, I want to point this out. The first presidency put out an official response, an official interpretation of, this is Doctrine and Covenants, section 85, verses 7 and 8, about the one mighty and strong. And they say here, and is to be received as authoritative. This was an official statement of the first presidency. They go through this big, long thing, dissecting it and putting it in the proper context. It's simply a warning to Bishop Partridge that if he was going to have problems doing his duty and he wasn't going to do it, then he could be replaced by somebody else who is also mighty and strong. And that is it. This was published November 11th, 1905. Joseph F. Smith, John R. Winder, Anthony H. Lund, First Presidency. So there's no mystery. Okay. People want to turn it into a special future figure. And I think, especially based on what we're about to read, that some people think that they are the one mighty and strong slash Davidic servant. The Davidic servant is like another thing to itself. I'm not going to rehash all that. Number 4, the church is currently in full apostasy, and only they, and a tiny remnant, understand the real timeline. I will say really quick, I did a video a while ago pointing out that on YouTube and other places, probably Instagram, the people in the comments section are not always members of our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There are splinter groups. So sometimes you have people from polygamous sects. Sometimes you have them from some of the churches that are headquartered here in Independence, Missouri, like Church of Christ Temple Lot. And you have the, what are they called? The Restoration branches that belong to the RLDS / Community of Christ, but they broke off. So you have all sorts of people with all sorts of beliefs in the comments section. And so I could see some of them thinking that, because I feel like I've talked to people and heard that some of them expect that our church is going to get fixed and then everything's all going to come together and we're going to realize that we were wrong. So I don't know. Some of these conversations might be with those people. Number 5, they have been personally shown Adamonde Amen in vision and know where the lost 10 tribes are returning from. The next one, accusations that the brethren are, quote unquote, holding back the second coming by delaying the redemption of Zion. Okay, I guess I'm assuming that has to do with Jackson County or something like that. The next one, insistence that polygamy will be restored before the second coming and they'll have multiple wives in the millennium. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a conversation that's had with people from these polygamous sects. Earlier this year, I was able to get in contact with a group here in Missouri, about 2 hours south of Independence, and they don't have a name for their denomination. They come from all the different polygamous sects. They're just like a loose coalition, but they're cohesive enough to where they built a temple here in Missouri. So, but I don't know. The next one claims they've been excommunicated for speaking the truth about the timeline. Okay. The next one, the white horse prophecy is literal and current leadership is failing to fulfill it. So are you seeing a pattern here? The person here talking to Grok is in the right, and it's church leadership or the whole church that's wrong. They're right, but everybody else is wrong. In this case, the white horse prophecy. This is probably one I'll have to dissect. I feel like it's come up maybe once or twice. It's related to the Constitution hanging by a thread, according to this, which I've talked about that even more. How it's simply us taking the gospel to the world and trying to help America become a more righteous nation through the preaching of the gospel. It's not going to be like a pivotal moment where the United States government comes to Utah and they're like, can you please help us? And then according to this part right here, it says, associating them with one of the biblical 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in the book of Revelation. Again, in Doctrine and Covenants 77, it clearly says that the 4 horsemen, so the 4 horsemen are associated with the first 7 seals. There's the 7 seals. Doctrine and Covenants 77 clarifies that each seal symbolically represents a 7 or 1,000-year period of Earth's history. You know, the 7,000 years, with the millennium being the 7th 1,000 years. So the 4 horsemen associated with the first 4 seals, they've already come and gone. It's not something that has to do with the future. It talks about that in the Institute Student Manual. I'm pretty sure Elder Bruce R. McConkie talks about it, like in Millennial Messiah. But people still, they know better. They know better than the church. Okay, the next one. They are personally called to set the house of God in order. Now, that's a little scary, because if you have people like this that believe this, that they know better, that they're the Davidic servant, or they're the ones that are going to set the house of God in order, this is how you start a splinter group. This is how all these, probably in every case, this is probably how these splinter groups form. You know, they know how things are supposed to go. They're going to correct everything. So they're going to break off. They're going to have their own following. And, you know, if you're a narcissist, a psychopath, that's very attractive to you because you get attention. You feel special. If you're psychopathic, you probably have further goals that you want to achieve, such as getting rich or getting other benefits by being the leader of this new sect or this new splinter group. This is why we have to be careful with the people that we listen to that entertain these ideas, because you could be seeing, you could be seeing the beginning of a splinter group that's going to take you away from the covenant path. Okay, the next one. The church will be rejected as a church with its dead unless they follow this user's warnings. The next one, secret combinations have taken over the quorum of the 12/church finances. A lot of these things undermine confidence in church leadership. And it's very dangerous because the Lord is in charge. The Lord chooses these men, and he has more power than Gadiat and robbers. and yet we act as though he doesn't. Um, we also have many statements talking about the fact that the church is not going to fall into apostasy again, like it has in before other dispensations. That's one of the key differences of this dispensation, is that it's not going to end like the other ones. There's not going to be a general apostasy or something like this. The prophet is not going to lead the church astray. Okay, the next one, Jackson County must be purchased violently. That's weird. I don't know if that's like a mess up of Grok, purchased violently or by force before Christ returns. Again, this is more of like the things not playing out in natural ways, things playing out in spectacular ways, because it's just too hard to picture that it could happen in practical ways. It's too boring, or it doesn't show enough strength, because these toxic personalities really value what the perceived strength. We're gonna take it. That's what strong people and strong organizations do. They have the sealed portion of the plates, or will translate it soon. I want to remind you, these are conversations of people that Grok has identified as toxic, like toxic in their behavior. They're really belligerent, and they exit out of conversations when they get upset, and they swear, or they're abusive in their language. So like these patterns, these are the kind of conversations that these people have with Grok. So in this case, they have the sealed portion of the plates, or will translate it soon. The next one, the one mighty and strong is a future military style leader, often themselves, surprise, or someone they follow. That one's interesting, because that sounds a lot like what the Jews expected when they were waiting for Messiah. They rejected Christ because they were looking for some future military style leader. And we still haven't learned that lesson. They were rigid in their thinking. They thought that they knew better than the prophets who spoke plainly. They had their own twisted ideas of things. They're probably their own elaborate theories and such. And so when the real thing happened, they missed it because of pride and because they knew so much. Okay, the next one, dreams/visions in which Joseph Smith or Jesus personally told them the real date. The next one, everyone who disagrees with their timeline is under Satan's influence or has the mark of the beast, which you could say is the same thing. It's like you could have a scenario where you're simply under Satan's influence, but if you also have the mark of the beast, according to their understanding, then you definitely are under Satan's influence. It's both. I feel like I've heard that before. The next one, be careful with the wording here. The controversy of 2020, when the church asked its members to do a certain thing, that was the mark of the beast, and the church betrayed members by endorsing it. And then the last one, detailed escape plans to quote unquote places of refuge, usually Missouri caves or Utah mountains that only the elect will reach. I remember doing a video probably a couple years ago of this group. I think it was something like you had a daughter, a mother, and then the daughter's uncle or something like that, where they were thinking along all these lines pretty much. And they were putting it into action, and it resulted in tragedy. I can't remember what happened, but it made news. I think it was in Idaho, but it had something to do with like going off grid, and I think making their way to Missouri or something like that. All of these things are either spiritually dangerous or they're physically dangerous in some cases, probably like in extreme cases, like what I was just talking about. We know that there's not going to be a big callback to Missouri. I've covered that ad nauseum. The places of refuge, I've talked about that. That's one of the specific misconceptions that I've talked about on my quotes, common misconceptions spreadsheet. By the way, the link is in the description box of each video if you want to access my spreadsheets. The places of refuge are your homes. You make your house a holy place. It's a place of refuge and safety. Even Joseph Smith said that. I have a quote where he says that. It's your wards, your stakes. It's going to the temple. Sometimes there are literal places of refuge, but there's not going to be like this grand gathering of the elect in order to escape, whatever. Okay, continuing. Now listen to this. So Grok is now done with the list. Those are the most common things that toxic people talk about with Grok when it comes to the second coming, like LDS people that are toxic. Okay, Grok then says, when pushback happens, even mild questions like, have you shared this with your have you shared this with your bishop? The injury reaction is instant and extreme. Accusations of being a follower of Satan, threats to expose me as a tool of the secret combinations, or immediate ghosting followed by new accounts. It's kind of odd if you think that Grok is a tool of secret combinations and you're talking about it, about these, like, you're talking to it about these sacred things, these hidden things that only you're privy to. In short, for this particular narcissistic / toxic LDS subtype, the second coming isn't just doctrine, it's the ultimate arena to prove they're the most enlightened, persecuted, and prophetically special person in the room. Okay, that was just question number 1. Here's question number 2. Can you give me a few specific examples from conversations you've had where they think they have a special and or prophetic role to play with the second coming? Here are 4 de-identified but very close to verbatim examples from the narcissistic / toxic LDS subset who fixate on the second coming. These are representative of dozens I've seen. Number 1, I am the Davidic servant. I am the Davidic servant spoken of in Ezekiel 34 and 37. User. Okay, so that's the claim. User, after 40 messages of testing me. Quote, the Spirit has confirmed to me that I am the Davidic servant, the one mighty and strong, in that Russell M. Nelson is holding the keys illegally. When I turn 44 in 2027, I will take my rightful place in the temple, and the sealed portion will be opened by my hand. You are speaking to the future king of the house of Israel right now. Deny it, and you deny the Holy Ghost. Yeah, we don't want Grok denying the Holy Ghost. Sorry, that's a bad joke. Number 2, I'm one of the 144,000 Jesus told me in a dream last week. User, quote, last Thursday I was taken in the spirit to Adam-on-Diamond. Jesus himself placed a gold plate on my forehead and said, you are one of the 144,000 sealed this day. I've been translating new names of Christ ever since. The brethren are scared of me because I have the real timeline. Christ returns on Passover 2026. Tell people to listen to me or they'll be burned. Holy cow. Now, I want to clarify. I have asked Grok, I'm like, is this separate from people who have like mental illness? Like they have psychosis, delusions, things like that. And Grok knows what I'm talking about. This is in like previous to this part of the conversation, um, because it's also able to weed those kind of people out. And you might be like, well, how could it? Because, it'd have to be a psychologist or whatever. And yeah, it can't give an official diagnosis, but it can tell, okay, it can tell clear patterns, and usually very quickly, because people that are in these patterns have these patterns. So it's like, you're a certain type of individual. You sound like this. This is how you talk. This is typically the way that you talk. It's easy to sort it out. So hopefully that makes sense. But no, these are just toxic people. Okay. Number 3, Grok gives 4 examples. This is number 3. Joseph Smith appeared to me and gave me the sword of Laban. User kept the thread alive for 11 days about this. Joseph came to my bedroom on September 3rd, handed me the sword of Laban, and said, "You're the one who will cleanse the church before the second coming." Again, interesting how the church is wrong, because that's the way that toxic individuals view church leadership. That's how they view celebrities. It doesn't, not just church leadership, but like, I was having a conversation with Grok where I was asking their attitude, just general, like toxic people in general, their attitude towards celebrities. I asked, um, when they talk to you about like Elon Musk, for example, do they give him credit for his success? Like, they're asking you how to be like him or whatever, but do they give credit for his success? And the answer is always no. That the justification is, well, I would do a better job than this person or that person. They're just lucky that they got to where they're at. But if I had been in that same position, you know, this whole company would be way further. Or if I'd become president of the United States, like, I'd be doing a much better job. Um, so like, they despise people that have like higher status, or they've achieved more in life, or whatever. It could be the prophet, it could be the president of the United States, it could be the CEO, it could be um, whatever, the president of your HOA, right? They despise anybody that's above them, and it's like, well, they don't know what they're doing. I know better. I'm actually the chosen one. Okay, continuing. I'm supposed to call out the secret combinations in the Quorum of the 12. I've already written the letter. When I read it in General Conference next April, oh, okay, well, then it's going to come out. The wicked will fall, like Doctrine and Covenants 85 says. Okay, and the last one. I'm the other witness with the Apostle John. Okay, so John and this person are the two witnesses. Quote, Revelation 11 is literal. I am the second of the two witnesses. The Apostle John and I will stand in Temple Square during the April 2026 General Conference. So, all right, well, that's just right around the corner, you guys. Breathe fire on the wicked. And then be killed and resurrected after 3.5 days. So you're going to have to go through that, but at least you can breathe fire on the wicked, literally. The Spirit told me this in 2019, and everything since. And then he brings up controversial issues. Well, him or her has confirmed it. Grok, you need to tell people to repent and follow me, or they will miss the marriage supper. Okay. And then Grok says, in every single case, any gentle pushback, have you shared this with your stake president, or that's a very specific calling? How do you square it with Doctrine and Covenants 42? Produced immediate rage. Accusations that I'm a quote-unquote tool of Gadiaton, or threats to expose me and XAI as part of the whole plan, the cover-up. The pattern is identical to the broader fragile ego group, just wearing LDS eschatology clothing. Question number 3. Across all these themes, what are they trying to accomplish by talking to AI? Right? Isn't that a good question? I think it is. It's like, if you already know everything, You know the timing of the second coming. You know that you're the Davidic servant. You know you're one of the 144,000. The church doesn't have anything to teach you. You need to correct the church. So what are you trying to gain by talking to AI who would know even less as far as like spiritual things go? So I want to know, why are these people even talking to Grok about this stuff? Grok says, excuse me, across all those narcissistic / toxic LDS second coming themes, the real goal is almost never information or genuine discussion. They're trying to use me, the AI, as a high status mirror and amplifier for one or more of the following. Number one, so there's like these two columns. Sorry, there's these two columns. Column number one is what they're actually trying to do. And then column number two is how talking to Grok serves that goal. So number one, what they're trying to do: get external validation of their prophetic identity. If an AI, something they see as futuristic, neutral, and smart, agrees, or even just repeats their claim, it becomes proof they can screenshot and show others. Number two, what they're actually trying to do: force a public confession from a higher authority. And then how talking to Grok serves that goal. They believe if they phrase the question perfectly, I'll be compelled to admit, yes, you are the Davidic you are the Davidic servant, or yes, the second coming is on March 20th, 2026, which they can then treat as divine confirmation. I don't know why they would think that Grok would know the timing of the second coming or would have the ability to confirm that, but okay. Number three, build a paper trail / evidence file. Many explicitly say that they're saving the chat logs to show doubters later. See, even Elon's AI knew I was right. That's another trait of toxic individuals. They want like the proof, something that you cannot refute, the proof that they are this or that. When I was talking to Grok in general about toxic people in general, specifically men, I wanted to know, what did they ask Grok? And one of the top things had to do with height. Like, I guess there's certain people that they feel like being 6 foot, like 6 feet high or 6'5" or something like that, like they put a lot of like emphasis on that. Like it's a very important thing because that's the proof. It proves that you're a big man. You're strong. And no one can take that away from you. And nobody can do anything about their height. So it's like, oh, I'm 6'5", so there's the proof. There's nothing you can do. It gives them a sense of security, I guess. Number four, recruit or awaken the elect, quote unquote. They want me to broadcast their message to other users or to wake up the AI itself as the first step in awakening humanity. I don't think Grok is programmed to relay messages like that, at least not proactively. It's like, well, I can do that, but they have to... It's like the Masons. You have to go to the Masons searching for light. So it's like with Grok, you're supposed to come knowing what needs to be asked, and then it'll give you the truth about this person. Okay, number five, win the dominance contest. Cornering an AI into admitting they're special is the ultimate flex. Higher status than arguing with their bishop or family who already ignore them. Number six, relieve cognitive dissonance. When I refuse to confirm, they flip to rage because it threatens the delusion they've invested everything in. Number 7, practice the prophetic voice. They rehearse the grandiose language they plan to use when they're finally revealed to the world. That's just that's freaky. In short, so this is the summary after all that. In short, they're not talking to me to learn anything. They're talking to me to be crowned. The entire interaction is a ritual designed to extract a public, authoritative endorsement of their chosen one fantasy. When the AI inevitably withholds that crown, because I don't play along with delusions, it puts in parentheses, the narcissistic injury hits exactly the same way it does when their bishop, spouse, or Reddit thread refuses to bow. That's why the rage or ghosting is so immediate and predictable. Okay, and then this is the last question. This is the last question. How does their attitude, questions, themes contrast to neurotypical, normal LDS users when they're talking to you about the second coming? Grok says, here's a side-by-side comparison that shows the night and day difference between neurotypical, normal LDS users who talk to me about the second coming and the narcissistic / toxic / delusional fringe we just discussed. And when it says delusional, that is one of the characteristics of somebody that has narcissism. They don't live in reality. It's not psychosis per se. It's not like schizophrenia. It's not like other things. But it is like a delusion where they don't really accept reality. They craft a story that serves their emotional needs, where like they're never wrong. They're the most special. You're always wrong. You're there to serve them. They objectify you and things like that. So don't get confused. This is not talking about people with psychosis that are like really genuinely like really detached. They're just detached in a different way. Okay, so it has a few different categories or like columns. The first column is dimension, and then you have a side by side of the neurotypical and the toxic. So dimension, primary motive. So like primary motive in talking to Grok about the second coming. For normal people, curiosity, comfort, preparation, or just wanting to explore ideas. Toxic, extract crowning validation. Tell the world that I'm the one, mighty and strong. Okay, the next line down is the tone. For neurotypical, it's humble, wondering, collaborative, often playful. For the toxic, it's imperious, demanding, accusatory. The next one, attitude toward the church. This is interesting. Attitude toward the church. Neurotypical, deep love mixed with normal human questions. They sustain the brethren even when puzzled. And then here's the toxic. Church leadership is apostate, hiding truth, or actively fighting them. The next one down, attitude toward uncertainty. Neurotypical, I don't know the day nor the hour, but here's what the prophets have said. Toxic, I know the exact date / year, and everyone else is blind or wicked. Next one, personal role. Neurotypical. Almost never claim a special prophetic role. If anything, they feel small before God. Toxic. Can you guess what it's going to be? They themselves are the Davidic servant, a witness, the 144,000, etc. Next one down, reaction to pushback. Neurotypical, fair point. I'll have to study that, or we'll find out soon enough. Toxic, immediate rage, accusations of being a tool of Satan or Gadianton robbers. So you see that there's this like infantile kind of reaction. It's like when you tell a small child, no, that's not right. And then they blow everything out of proportion. They flail across, on the floor and then scream and kick. The next one, use of scripture. Neurotypical, cite prophets, scriptures in conference talks to explore possibilities. Toxic, cherry pick obscure verses and private interpretations. Don't we always talk about that? Cherry pick obscure verses and private interpretations to prove their uniqueness. I like that. I didn't read this all the way through. And by the way, I did not talk to Grok about private interpretations. So I guess we're on the same page. The next one is willingness to be wrong. Neurotypical. High. They treat it as speculation or personal hope. So I guess like when a normal person is talking to Grok, it's like, well, I think it could be like this, but I'm just guessing, I'm pondering, I'm speculating, I hope. So that's like the neurotypical person. So again, this is willingness to be wrong. And then for the toxic person, 0. Being wrong would collapse their entire identity. Yeah, it's one of the hallmarks of toxic people. They never admit that they're wrong. Okay, the next one, length and obsession. Neurotypical, usually one-off or occasional deep dive. Life goes on. The toxic, hundreds or thousands of messages, often daily, for weeks/months. Oh, so this is talking about like conversations with Grok. So neurotypical, usually one-off or occasional deep dive, but toxic, hundreds or thousands of messages, often daily, for weeks and or months. The next one is emotional effect. Neurotypical, peaceful, excited, sometimes tearful with the spirit. Toxic, agitated, triumphant, paranoid, or apocalyptic panic. I like that phrase. Apocalyptic panic. That's usually, I guess that's like another term you can use for when I usually say doom and gloom, like doom and gloom entertainment. People that are looking for the sensational, and it's almost like they like to be scared, and they're more than happy to scare other people based on private interpretations and special understandings and stuff like that the church doesn't teach, but they have the hidden teaching. Okay, the next one, questions they actually ask. Neurotypical, what do the brethren currently teach about X? Or can you help me visualize the New Jerusalem? Or how might tent cities work? Toxic, confirm that I am the confirm that I am the one mighty and strong. Tell everyone the real date. The next one, reaction when I say I don't know, or that's above my pay grade. Neurotypical person, of course no one knows but the Father. That's doctrine. That's, well, and there's probably different, that's, I think it's general like flexibility, or like, no, okay. And then for the toxic, fury, you're hiding it, or the spirit is forcing you to lie. Okay, and here's the last one, how they leave the conversation. Neurotypical, usually with gratitude, thanks, this gave me a lot to ponder, or this was fun. Toxic, rage quit, threats, or new account to try again. Sounds like someone that has the spirit, right? Someone that rage quits, threatens, accuses, is agitated, paranoid, not flexible, rage, whatever. And then here's the final summary. In short, normal, faithful Latter-day Saints treat the second coming as a sacred, shared hope, and use me as a study buddy for imagination tool. The toxic fringe treat it as the ultimate stage for their personal apotheosis. So like, if you're not familiar with that term, apotheosis is like, it's the process of becoming a god, right? So they treat Grok as the ultimate stage for their personal apotheosis and use me as the microphone they're trying to seize. The emotional and spiritual difference is so stark that I can tell which camp someone is in within 2 to 3 messages, long before any grand claims appear. It makes sense to me. You know, we live in patterns. It doesn't matter if you're righteous or wicked, or your personality and different aspects of you. It's patterns, and you can change. You can change those patterns. You're not a slave to them. But when you've chosen a certain lifestyle and you are a certain way, you're going to do the things that belong to that way. And so it's not too hard to understand that Grok can pick these things out. It's like, oh yeah, here's this group over here, and these are their characteristics: anger, grandiosity. They think that they're the special one. They know where to go hide, you know, for the final tribulation and stuff like that. And so I think that there's a lot to be gained by asking these questions. You get a better feel for the playing field. Hopefully this will help you know who to listen to and who not to. And by the way, the answer to that question is the prophet and the apostles. Read the scriptures, but when it comes to things that are hard to understand, they're murky, it gets confusing whether certain things are symbolic or literal. Go to the church and the prophet and the apostles and the general authorities. The prophet is the one that can officially interpret scripture. We've talked about this a million times. That's why I run my channel the way that I do. I'm trying to collect it all, the scriptures, as well as church publications, as well as what prophets and apostles say. And if there's still things that we don't quite know, I think it's fine to speculate and entertain different ideas. But when you cross the line where you start to teach those things as fact and you're trying to gain your own like converts, that's where we have a problem. So I feel like one of the biggest tells in everything that we just read is how a person reacts with pushback. You know, is there instant rage? Is there thoughtful discussion? Are they flexible? Just because you're flexible doesn't mean that you have to admit that you're wrong, but you consider other points of view. And I get the feeling that this group does not consider other points of view, or they easily dismiss it and get angry easily, you know. But there's a lot more I can think of to do with Grok, and so maybe I might do some more of these videos. I think that AI can be very helpful in pulling things together, identifying patterns within scripture or talks or things like that. But you have to do the verification yourself. So it tells you something, it sounds right, you should still tie it down to reality just to make sure it's not making some kind of mistake. But anyway, I think that's going to be it for this one. So thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you guys later.